37 here at KPEL. Nathan and Bernie in the morning, 232-1542. If you'd like to join the conversation with us this morning, joining us on the phone line, Scott McKay. He is the publisher of the Hayride.com. And Scott, you have been paying very close attention to the legislative session that started up on Monday. Good morning. How are you?
Doing fine. Although I got to tell you, I would probably be happier if I wasn't paying attention to the legislative session this week.
But Scott,
it's really kind of depressing, you know.
Well, but you've got to admit, though, yeah, it's depressing, but it's very entertaining to watch at the very least. It's like our form of infotainment, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, at times. I mean, it's like the worst reality show on TV.
Yeah.
Is what it's like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's horrible. And you kind of, I don't know, this sounds bad, but it's almost like you want to see people hurt each other because it's like, they just get stupid.
Well, yeah, and I mean, okay, people start testifying in front of these committees, okay? And not everybody is, I mean, some people make good points and some people do okay, but it's like reading the comments under articles at the Times-Picayune Advocate. You just say, there's a reason we're in the position that we're in,
Yeah.
And yesterday, House Appropriations, they had all of the student government people at, the public universities around the state. And they all kind of were saying some of the same things. So, okay, college kids, they don't know anything, whatever, but they're all saying the same things, which means somebody actually coached them on things to say. And one of the things that, like, a bunch of these kids were talking about was, well, you need to lower the academic standards for people to get into college at, UNO or Nickel State or whatever, so that they can take more kids and solve their fiscal problems. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, there are actually faculty people that told these people to say this.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
We want to lower standards.
We used to do that. We used to have open admission.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay? And the universities were spending gobs of money on remedial classes.
Yeah, and it was a disaster.
They cut all that out because it was too expensive and it was breaking the system, and they couldn't actually educate the people that belonged there.
Yeah.
Then we went and we built all the community colleges for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
Is to try to get, and I mean, here comes, hey, I'm the president of Student Government Association at such and such a school, and I think you need to value my degree by bringing in a bunch of people with 16s on the ACT.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh my God, I got to stop watching this because I'm gonna throw myself off a bridge. I mean, and that's where we are right now. Everybody has an idea on how to fix this, and most of them are bad ideas that have been tried already.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we're in week one of the session. So,
well, Scott, and we're talking with Scott McKay, the publisher of the Hayride.com. If you're just now joining us on the program, we talked with State Senator Jonathan Perry a little bit earlier in the program during our 7 o'clock hour, and we discussed with him. First of all, I love the headline on this post that you published yesterday. And now the bill everyone will hate. And we discussed this a little bit. And it's a nuclear option, I guess. I guess this bill, HB 523, is designed to get people talking. It stands no chance of passing, right?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, the bill basically undedicates all of the dedicated
everything.
Money,
yeah, it's like you just blow it all up, basically.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I don't know if you do everything that's in that bill. But I mean, if you made me king of Louisiana, most of that stuff would become law.
Yeah.
We've had a real problem for a real long time, and a lot of people will tell you that a constitutional convention is the only way to fix it. But the problem we have is some legislator will come up with a pet cause, okay, and they will run a bill up the flagpole to dedicate money to their pet cause. And the rest of the legislators probably don't agree, but they've got their pet causes too. So it's kind of a, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And, they're all constitutional amendments, so you're not really at fault for screwing up the Treasury because it's going to the voters anyway. and what happens is you get a constitutional amendment on the ballot, and like for this, not to pick too heavily on anything, but last year there's one to protect the coral reefs. Okay, and well, everybody wants to protect the coral reefs, and so the question is presented to the voters of, well, would you like to protect the coral reefs? Well, yeah, of course, I'm going to vote for that. What they don't tell you is you're protecting the coral reefs at LSU's expense, right, or at ULL's expense, or but it's never sold that way because money isn't finite when it's in the public sector, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so over the decades you build this up, and now the legislators are all screaming, well, we can't cut our way to $1.6 billion because all the money is dedicated. And when not to take up for Bobby Jindal too much, because he won't even take up for himself at this point. But, they're all over Jindal for the last several years because he's doing these fund sweeps, right, to balance the budget. What's he sweeping funds from? The stupid dedicated funds that are running giant surplus.
Yeah.
Okay? And, one of the few political messaging things that Jindal has said inside the state that were worth a damn was, would you rather me raid a government bank account or your bank account to balance this budget?
That's right.
But he does a bad job of actually making the case of, hey, man, this thing is all screwed up, and this is why the budget's going to look this way until we change it. But nobody makes the case, right? So it's, you just hate higher ed. It's, well, there's nobody dedicating money to higher ed. Yeah. So, I think our problems are largely political because people don't understand exactly, why this is screwed up the way it is. And if people actually pay attention to it, they'll be like, let these people that we elect actually figure out how to spend our money, and then we won't have a $1.6 billion deficit, really in perpetuity at this point, because it's structural and it's screwed up. Meanwhile, we've got, even though Jindal has spent some of them down, they probably could get $1.6 billion out of surpluses in those dedicated funds to at least, maybe not 1.6, but they could get a big chunk of that if they could just say, you don't need this money. The general fund needs this money. We're gonna fund LSU and ULL and McNeese or whatever so that they don't go out of business this year. They could do that. They could do a lot of that, but it's not going to get done without some massive structural change. And the nuclear option bill at least puts it on the table. Yeah. So whether it passes or not, I think it's great that they did that.
Yeah. Talking to Scott McKay, publisher of the Hayride.com. By the way, he also has a podcast, and I'm forgetting the name of that podcast.
Red Bayou Show.
Red Bayou Show. Yes, it's a 1-hour podcast, and it's actually, you discuss a lot of great things. But let's get back to this higher education thing. Look, I follow you on Facebook, and it's quite entertaining sometimes. You're having this discussion about public universities in the state. We have so many of them. And you were talking about graduation rates, and some of these colleges have been a complete failure at spending public money, at doing what they're supposed to do, graduating students. You look at some of them like UNO, Grambling, Southern, etc.
They have terrible rates.
Yeah,
they're not graduating hardly anyone.
SUNO is the poster child for this because they're over there celebrating because their graduation rate has gone from 5% in 6 years, 5 years ago, to like 11% now. Okay, wow. And they're we're making a lot of progress. And really, the only reason that has happened is that the state forced all the colleges to actually have minimum academic standards to get into a 4-year school. And that is increasing SUNO's graduation rate. Of course, it's also decreasing SUNO's enrollment, which is why, they're all saying, well, you're killing us with these academic standards. So, and they went to try to do something about SUNO 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a complete mess politically.
Yeah, it was. It was horrible.
And of course, I'll say this, okay? Jindal didn't go for the whole donut, which is what he should have done, okay? He went to merge SUNO with UNO.
Yeah.
And I could have told you that wasn't going to work because the Speaker of the House at the time was Jim Tucker, who was a graduate of UNO. And
Yeah.
nobody from UNO wanted to merge with SUNO. So he basically had a fox in his henhouse doing this thing. Not that, look, I'm not faulting Tucker. I mean, he had all of his people that helped him get elected
Right.
were like, don't you dare let this happen.
Right.
And so, he strung it along for a while. And then he just changed the bill and took UNO out of the LSU system and put it in the University of Louisiana system and called it a day. And that was the end of doing something about SUNO.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have 14 of these campuses. We need to consolidate it probably to 9 or 10 at the most. You go compare us to other states. Very few states are running the kind of ratio of public campuses to population, or better put, college prepped population, okay, that Louisiana is doing. And in a good year, we can't fund all of these campuses.
Yeah.
And this isn't a good year because the money is all going to pension costs and Medicaid and a number of other things that are spiraling out of control that nobody has the political will to do anything about. So there's not enough money to fund these things. We're funding them through tuition and fees right now more than general fund, which I actually think is a good thing for a lot of these campuses. But, where's the money to fund a SUNO that graduates 11% of their people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, where is it? Somebody's got to show me how that's a good investment given where we are in the state.
You're basically saying what I've been preaching on this show for the better part of the last year. So good to hear somebody else saying it. Scott, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We're going to let you go because we got to wrap things up for the show. But
that was
really,
very fun.
Really appreciate your insights, and we'll keep in touch with you during the session, okay?
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. All right.